We're checking this bag. Stand back.
Step away from the director, now!
Here's the rewritten story script. Title: The Quiet Power of Director Daniels. The afternoon sun was beginning to dip below the tree line in the exclusive suburb of Oakwood Heights, casting long, sharp shadows across the manicured lawns. It was 3:45 p.m. on a Tuesday, the kind of quiet hour where the only sounds were the distant hum of landscaping crews and the occasional expensive car gliding home. Oakwood Heights was a fortress of privilege, located about 15 miles north of the city center. The entrance was marked by wrought iron gates that stayed open during the day, but closed with a heavy finality at dusk. The houses here were not just homes, they were statements. Limestone facades, 3-car garages, and security systems that cost more than most people's annual rent. The residents paid a premium for many things: privacy, silence, and the unspoken assurance that the chaotic world outside would not intrude here. Driving down Willow Creek Boulevard was a pristine slate gray 2025 Lincoln Navigator. The SUV moved with the silent weight of luxury engineering. It was unmarked. There were no stickers on the bumper, no dealership frames around the license plate, and the windows were tinted to the legal limit, offering a cool, detached view of the world outside. Behind the wheel sat Elias Daniels. At 62, Daniels was a man who carried authority, not as a weapon, but as a second skin. He had spent 35 years in federal law enforcement, climbing a ladder that was slippery with politics and danger. He had started as a rookie field agent in Chicago during the height of the crack epidemic, moved to intelligence analysis after 9/11, and now, for the last 3 years, he served as the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation's National Security Branch. He was one of the highest-ranking intelligence officials in the United States. He reported directly to the Attorney General. His signature authorized operations that spanned continents. Just 40 minutes ago, he had been in a soundproof room discussing a counter-terrorism operation involving assets in 3 different time zones. Now he was just a man driving home to see his wife and perhaps catch the last inning of a baseball game on TV. But as he approached the intersection of Willow Creek and Elm, his rearview mirror flooded with blue and red light. The flashing lights were sudden, aggressive, and entirely unexpected. Daniels checked his speedometer. He was doing 30 in a 35 zone. He signaled, checked his blind spot, and pulled the massive SUV smoothly to the curb. He put the vehicle in park, turned off the radio, and placed his hands at the 10 and 2 positions on the steering wheel. He did not panic. Panic was for people who didn't know the rules. Daniels knew the rules better than the man who was currently walking up behind him. He knew that a traffic stop was a piece of theater, a performance of power where one actor held the script and the weapon, and the other was expected to improvise submission. Officer Ryan Miller stepped out of his patrol car. He was 38 years old, a 10-year veteran of the Oakwood Heights Police Department. He adjusted his belt as he walked, a subtle, perhaps unconscious gesture that drew attention to his gun. Miller was a man who took pride in his intuition. He believed he had a sixth sense for trouble. To him, a black man driving a $100,000 SUV in this neighborhood with no visible reason to be there set off an alarm in his head that he mistook for professional instinct. Miller approached the driver's side window. He didn't hurry. He let the silence stretch, a tactic designed to make the driver nervous, to make them sweat. But inside the Lincoln, Elias Daniels wasn't sweating. He was watching Miller in the side mirror, analyzing his gait, his posture, the position of his hands. He was assessing the threat level. The window rolled down with a soft electric hum. "Good afternoon, officer," Daniels said. His voice was a baritone rumble, calm and steady. It was the voice of a man who had briefed presidents. Officer Miller did not return the greeting. He leaned down, peering into the interior of the car. "License and registration." "Is there a problem?" Daniels asked, making no move to reach for his wallet yet. "License and registration," Miller repeated, louder this time. He wasn't interested in conversation. He was interested in compliance. Daniels moved slowly. He announced his actions. "I am reaching into my back pocket for my wallet. My registration is in the glove compartment." "Just get them," Miller snapped. Daniels handed over the documents. Miller took them, looking from the license to Daniels, then back to the car. The name on the license read Elias Marcus Daniels. The address was right here in Oakwood Heights. Everything was in order, but Miller couldn't reconcile the data with his bias. "This is a nice truck," Miller said. It wasn't a compliment. It was an accusation wrapped in a statement. "Brand new." "It is," Daniels replied. "This your vehicle?" Miller asked. "It is." "What line of work you in to afford a ride like this?" Miller asked, leaning closer. "You a rapper, athlete, run a cash business?" The question hung in the air, heavy with insult. Daniels felt a flicker of anger, hot and sharp, but he extinguished it instantly. He knew this game. He knew that reacting would only validate Miller's narrative. "I am a civil servant," Daniels said neutrally. "Civil servant," Miller scoffed. "Government work pays for a $100,000 truck. Must be some government." "It is federal service," Daniels said. "I have served for 35 years. "Uh-huh. Federal service. That covers a lot of ground. You working maintenance? Delivery?" Before we go any further, I want to welcome you to the channel. We tell stories here about the moments when the system reveals its true face. If you're listening from your car or your home, let me know in the comments where you are. And if you believe that justice should be blind to the price of your car or the color of your skin, hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss how this power struggle ends. Miller stepped back from the window, his hand resting on the roof of the Lincoln. "Step out of the car." "For what purpose?" Daniels asked. "You have my identification. You have verified the vehicle is registered to me at a local address. What is the infraction?" "I smell marijuana," Miller lied. The words came out smooth, practiced. It was the universal key to the Fourth Amendment, the magic phrase that unlocked doors and trunks. Daniels didn't blink. The car smelled of leather and the faint scent of his wife's vanilla air freshener. There was no marijuana. There never had been. "There is no marijuana in this vehicle, officer," Daniels said. "I do not consume drugs. I am a senior federal official." "Step out of the car, or I will remove you," Miller said, his hand dropping to the handle of his door. Daniels unbuckled his seatbelt. He opened the door and stepped out, rising to his full height of 6'2". He stood by the front fender, his hands clasped loosely in front of him. He looked at Officer Miller, really looked at him, with the cool, dissecting gaze of an intelligence director evaluating a failed asset. "Turn around, hands on the hood," Miller commanded. "I am not under arrest," Daniels stated. "I am submitting to your lawful order to exit the vehicle. I will stand here. I will not place my hands on the hood like a criminal." Miller bristled. He wasn't used to this kind of pushback. Most people were scared. This man was disappointed. "I'm going to search the vehicle," Miller announced. "Probable cause, the smell." "You do not have probable cause," Daniels said. "You are fabricating a pretext. I am informing you that this is a secure federal vehicle. It contains classified documents and encrypted communications equipment. You do not have the clearance to enter it." Miller laughed, a short, sharp bark of disbelief. "Buddy, I don't care if you're the Pope. I smell weed. I searched the car. Stand back." Miller moved toward the open door. Daniels didn't move to stop him physically. He knew that would be a death sentence. Instead, he spoke a single sentence that would change the trajectory of Officer Miller's life. "If you cross the threshold of that vehicle, you will be in violation of the National Security Act. You will be committing a federal felony, and I will ensure you are prosecuted for it." Miller paused. His hand hovered over the seat. He looked back at Daniels. For a second, doubt crept in. The man spoke with such absolute certainty, but Miller's pride was stronger than his caution. He dove into the car. He started tossing the interior. He opened the center console. He rummaged through the glove box. He found no drugs. What he found was a leather portfolio embossed with the seal of the Department of Justice. He opened it. Inside were documents marked top secret/no foreign. Miller's stomach dropped. He looked at the dashboard. There was a secured satellite phone mount. There were switches for encrypted radio frequencies. This wasn't a rapper's car. He backed out of the vehicle, holding the portfolio. "What is this?" he asked, his voice wavering slightly. "Put that down," Daniels said. "Now." Daniels reached into his jacket pocket. "I am retrieving my credentials. Do not shoot me." He pulled out a slim leather case and flipped it open. The gold badge of the Federal Bureau of Investigation gleamed in the afternoon sun. Below it, the ID card identified him as Elias Daniels, Executive Assistant Director. "I am the Director of National Security," Daniels said. "You have just conducted an illegal search of a classified facility. You have detained a federal official without cause, and you have done so based on a racial profile and a fabricated scent." Miller stood frozen. The portfolio felt heavy in his hand. The silence of the neighborhood suddenly felt oppressive, like the air before a thunderstorm. I smelled it," Miller stammered, sticking to the lie even as it crumbled around him. "I have to verify." "You smelled nothing," Daniels said. At that moment, a black SUV turned the corner at high speed, followed by a second one. They screeched to a halt behind Miller's patrol car. 4 men in suits exited the vehicles. They didn't run, but they moved with a terrifying efficiency. They were Daniels' security detail, who tracked his vehicle via GPS and had been alerted the moment he was stopped for more than 3 minutes. The lead agent, a man named Thomas Reckless, walked straight past Miller to Daniels. "Director, are you secure?" "I am secure, Tom," Daniels said. "Officer Miller here has just completed an unauthorized search of the vehicle. He claims he smells narcotics." Thomas turned to Miller. Thomas was former Special Forces. He looked at Officer Miller like he was a stain on the pavement. "Officer," Thomas said quietly, "step away from the director. Put the documents on the hood. Now." Miller complied. He looked at his patrol car, wishing he could dissolve into the seat. His sergeant arrived 2 minutes later, summoned by the panic in Miller's voice when he radioed for backup. Sergeant Brooks was an older man, a 20-year veteran who knew how the world worked. He took one look at the federal agents, the Lincoln, and Elias Daniels, and he knew his officer had just stepped on a landmine. Brooks walked over to Daniels. "Director Daniels," he said, extending a hand. "I am Sergeant Brooks. I apologize for the delay. Is there a problem?" "Your officer profiled me, Sergeant," Daniels said. "He stopped me without cause. He fabricated probable cause. He illegally searched a federal vehicle, and he insulted my intelligence and my integrity." Brooks looked at Miller, who was standing by the trunk of his car, looking pale. "I see." "I want his badge number," Daniels said. "I want your body cam footage preserved immediately. If 1 second of that footage goes missing, I will have the Department of Justice investigate this entire department for obstruction." "It will be preserved, sir," Brooks promised. "You have my word." The agents escorted Daniels back to his vehicle. They did a sweep to ensure Miller hadn't planted anything or compromised the equipment. Once cleared, Daniels got back in. He didn't look at Miller again. He drove away, his detail falling in behind him like a phalanx. But the story didn't end there. In fact, the real machinery of justice was just warming up. Elias Daniels went home. He kissed his wife, he ate dinner, and then he sat down in his study and wrote a memorandum. He addressed it to the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ. He detailed the stop with the clinical precision of a case officer. He didn't use emotional language. He didn't need to. The facts were damning enough. The Oakwood Heights Police Department tried to get ahead of it. They launched an internal investigation the next morning, but Daniels didn't wait for their slow-walking bureaucracy. He filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against the city and Officer Miller personally. The lawsuit was a bombshell. It alleged violations of the 4th and 14th Amendments. It cited Miller's history, which Daniels' team had pulled, of disproportionately stopping minority drivers in the suburb. The discovery phase was brutal. Daniels' lawyers requested Miller's entire disciplinary file. They requested the body cam footage of every stop he had made in the last 5 years. They found a pattern, a clear, undeniable pattern of harassment. Miller targeted expensive cars driven by Black and Hispanic men. He used the smell of marijuana excuse in 40% of his stops, yet he only found drugs in less than 5% of those cases. It was a statistical impossibility. It was a lie he used to bypass the Constitution. The city's lawyers saw the data. They saw the video of Miller sneering at one of the most powerful law enforcement officials in the country. They knew they couldn't win. They knew a jury would destroy them. They offered a settlement. Daniels rejected the first offer. He wasn't interested in a quick payout. He wanted reform. The negotiation dragged on for months. Meanwhile, Miller was placed on unpaid suspension. The police union tried to defend him, claiming he made an honest mistake. But the video, which Daniels' team released to the public, showed no mistake. It showed arrogance. It showed bias. The public reaction was intense. The video went viral. People saw the calm dignity of Daniels against the aggressive rudeness of Miller. It sparked a national conversation about who we consider suspicious and why. Finally, the city caved. They agreed to a settlement of $950,000, but the money came with conditions. Officer Ryan Miller was terminated. His police certification was revoked by the state board, meaning he could never work in law enforcement again. The Oakwood Heights Police Department was forced to enter into a consent decree. They had to overhaul their traffic stop policies. They had to implement mandatory bias training. And they had to install a civilian oversight board to review all complaints of profiling. But perhaps the most satisfying consequence happened quietly, away from the cameras. About a year after the incident, Elias Daniels was invited to speak at the graduation ceremony for the State Police Academy. He stood at the podium, looking out at the rows of fresh-faced cadets, men and women who were about to be given a gun and a badge. Authority, Daniels told them, is not the power to force people to obey. It is the responsibility to ensure they don't have to fear you. When you put on that uniform, you do not stop being a citizen. You become the guardian of the rights of every person you meet. even the ones you think look suspicious, especially them. He paused, letting the words sink in. If you cannot treat a man with dignity until you know who he is, you have no business wearing the badge, because the next man you stop might just be the one who can take it away from you. Elias Daniels is still the director. He still drives his Lincoln home to Oakwood Heights. The police officers there wave to him now. They know his car, but more importantly, they know the cost of assuming that dignity is determined by zip code. Ryan Miller works in landscaping now. He spends his days mowing the lawns of the houses he used to patrol. Sometimes he sees a luxury SUV drive by, and he stops his mower watching it disappear down the road, wondering who is behind the wheel. This story forces us to ask a difficult question. We cheer for Director Daniels because he won. He had the power, the rank, and the resources to fight back. But what if he had been a school teacher? What if he had been a mechanic? What if he hadn't had a security detail and a direct line to the Attorney General? Would Officer Miller have faced any consequences? Or would another innocent man have been humiliated on the side of the road, his rights trampled by a lie about the smell of marijuana? Justice shouldn't require a federal badge. It should be the default setting. What do you think? Was the settlement enough? Do you think Miller deserved to lose his career? Or was he just a product of a broken system? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you believe that nobody is above the law and nobody should be beneath its protection, make sure you're subscribed. We'll see you in the next story.